Hi friends, this is Lachhwani reporting the Analyze and Improve Face oral presentation for FS 575 Food Quality Management course. So to start with, I would like to do a quick recap of my define and the measure phase. The goal of my project was to reduce 5 pounds per month for 4 consecutive months. And the plan to achieve that goal was to do some measurable activities, which were 10,000 steps for 4 times a week, or to avoid intake of dessert after the meals. So the way I took this data, I used the iPhone application app to track the miles, and the dessert data I just on a calendar I put yes or no. If I did intake the dessert after the meal, I would put yes, and if no, it's no. And this is how I have presented the data. On this slide, I just have the data for September. So as you can see, I started collecting data from 11 September, and the numbers below that are the steps walked on that day, and no means I didn't take any dessert after the meals for that day. What I did with that data is I plotted that on the X bar and R chart. As you can see here, all the data points are within my upper and the lower spec limit. The reason behind that is the range or the standard deviation of my data was too high. There were some days with maybe 5,000 steps and some days with 12,000 steps. So just because of the very high standard deviation, my upper and the lower spec or the overall range of the chart is way bigger, and that is why the data doesn't seem to be out of spec. But if I have to compare this against my spec limit, like the spec limit, if I have to decide, I would put that 10,000 plus or minus 2,000. So if I put my spec limits that tight, I would definitely can say the CP and the CPK values would be less than 1, and the process is under control, but it's not within the spec limits. And the lower data or the R chart is showing that my range is way too high. You might see here, for 916, the range is almost a 10,000 difference from the previous data. So, that is why it looks like it's in control, and just because, it's very high standard deviation. Next thing I did is plotted my data on a C chart on non-conformities. And what I'm taking here as the non-conformities is, if I wasn't able to achieve my goal for steps for one particular day, I would consider that as one non-conformity. And if on a particular day, if I wasn't able to achieve my steps and the desert or the meal plan, I would put that as two non-conformities. So finally, I plotted the non-conformities against the number of days, and this is the C chart looks like. So the reasons why I was not able to achieve my goals on some particular days, I did a root cause analysis using a cause and effect diagram. As you can see here, I have chosen 4 different categories: environment, behavior, work, and family. So for work, the reason I had thought of, there were long work hours. I worked 11 days or 11 hours in that particular day, and after coming home, I didn't have time to go or complete my steps on a treadmill or something. That's why I just decided to, skip for that day and go to the next day. For family, especially during the weekends, was giving time to the family, going out with them, doing some shopping for them, or some social events wherein, a few days, friends or neighbors came over to have dinner at our house. And those social and family events would inhibit me or restricted me to complete my goals for those days. Behavior, it's just laziness, uh, tired at work, may not be long hours, but once I come back home, I feel tired and then didn't feel like walking for that day. Environment, there were some cold days or freezing winds. I live in the Texas Panhandle area, and 20-30% of time the days are very windy here, so it was very cold out there and I didn't feel like going out, and that's why I put the environment as the 4th category. So, I plotted the chart, I plotted the data on a Pareto, see which categories were occurring most. And it looks like the long work hours had the 50% occurrence amongst the entire data, which means 50% of the time, or at least or for 5 different times. The reason I have given was the long work hours. So the improvement strategy here, once I know which are my work two areas, the improvement strategy for the long work hours I thought of doing is to limit the number of meetings um, I would decide at work, and see if I can limit the meetings if possible, and delegate the task to my peers or other co-workers if possible. This will give me more efficiency to get out of work on time. For social or family activities, plan the weekends ahead of time. This way, if I know somebody's going to be visiting us over the weekend, I would rather, plan my walking activities or steps activities early in the morning. That way I'm able to achieve my goals. So this is what, I'm thinking of doing as far as overcoming the family or social um, limitation that I came up doing the root cause analysis. Third, being tired. The improvement strategy here is to participate in the community yoga activities and eat healthy food. This will give me more energy and hopefully not make me feel tired as I was as I used to be. So I kept on collecting data after implying the improvement strategies. This is the data of 20 days from October. And as you can see here, couple of things I noticed in my X bar and R charts compared to the previous data is my range is not as wide as previous ones. That means I'm more consistently hitting the target. The number of days I miss the target is less compared to past. And also on this graph, if you see the front end of the graph, it's up and down, so normal distribution. But towards the end of the graph, if you see most, like almost 4 to 5 different data points were above the target. And even the range graph, on the range graph, if you see, my range reduced tremendously. Or you can see a drift in the X bar and the R chart. So I'm feeling that the efforts I'm putting are going in the right direction. Um, so the next step for my project will be to continue to collect the data for steps and desert until end of November, and then finally do a hypothesis testing, see if there's a significant difference between the data collected in October compared to September and the data collected in November compared to October. And finally correlate all this data together with the weight loss and see if there was a significant weight loss identified with the hypothesis testing. Thank you so much, guys, for watching my video. Any feedback or comments or concerns are most welcome. Please feel free to share with me. Thank you. You have a good day.